In this video, we will explore everyone who has been executed in the United States so far in 2025. We will look into their crimes, their final words, and the last meals they requested before facing their fate. Marian Bowman Jr., South Carolina. On February 16, 2001, 20-year-old Bowman had a fight with 21-year-old Candy Louise Martin over money she owed him. Later that evening, Bowman took Martin's life with multiple gunshots, ignoring her pleas about having a child to care for. After killing her, he dragged her body into the woods. Bowman later bragged about the killing, drove Martin's car around town, and tried to sell it. He eventually returned to the murder site with another friend, Travis Felder, where they placed Martin's body in the trunk of her car and set it on fire. In June 2001, Bowman was charged with murder and third-degree arson. The day before his execution, Bowman asked for fried shrimp, fish and oysters, chicken wings, chicken tenders, onion rings, banana pudding, German chocolate cake, pineapple juice, and cranberry juice. On January 31, 2025, Marian Bowman Jr. was executed by lethal injection at the Broad River Correctional Institution. In his final statement, Bowman said he wasn't guilty. "I did not kill Candy Martin. I'm innocent of the crimes I'm here to die for." He also commented on death row inmates. Death row inmates may be labeled as the worst of the worst. None of these guys that I have gotten to know and grown to love are the people that they were when they had their moment that cost them everything. He was pronounced dead at 6:27 p.m. Stephen Nelson, Texas. On March 3, 2011, 24-year-old Stephen Nelson entered a Baptist church in Arlington, Texas. Inside, the church were 28-year-old Pastor Clint Dobson and 69-year-old Secretary Judy Elliott. Nelson attacked both victims, killing Dobson by choking him with a computer cord and covering his face with a plastic bag. Elliott, on the other hand, was badly beaten, causing serious brain bleeding and other injuries. Thinking both victims were dead, Nelson stole Dobson's laptop, a cell phone, Elliott's credit cards, and her car. Dobson died at the scene, but Elliott survived. She was released from the hospital 2 weeks later and spent 5 months in therapy and rehabilitation. After his arrest, Nelson was charged with capital murder and attempted capital murder. And on February 5, 2025, Stephen Nelson was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit in Texas. By then, Texas no longer allowed special last meal requests for death row inmates, so Nelson received the standard prison meal served to all inmates on execution day. In his final statement, Nelson spoke to his wife, "I will always love you no matter. Our love is uncontrollable. I'm at peace. I'm ready to be at home. Let's ride, Warden." He was pronounced dead at 6:50 p.m. Demetrius Terrence Frasier, Alabama. On November 27, 1991, Frasier broke into an apartment in Birmingham, Alabama. After stealing cash, he found 40-year-old Pauline Starks Brown asleep. He demanded money, and she gave him $80 from her purse. Frasier then threatened her with a gun, sexually assaulted her, and despite her pleas, killed her with a gunshot to the back of her head. In another case on March 8, 1992, in Detroit, Michigan, Frasier held 14-year-old Crystal Kendrick in an abandoned house. When she tried to escape, he shot and killed her. Frasier was arrested later that month and admitted to killing Brown while in police custody. The day before his execution, Frasier asked for a last meal from Taco Bell, a beefy 5-layer burrito, a chicken chalupa supreme, beef crunchy tacos, chips and dip, and a Mountain Dew. On February 6, 2025, Demetrius Terrence Frasier was executed by nitrogen gas at the Hoffman Correctional Facility in Alabama. His last words were, "Let's go." Frasier was pronounced dead at 6:36 p.m., about 26 minutes after the execution began. James Dennis Ford, Florida. On April 6, 1997, James Ford invited 25-year-old Gregory Malnery Jr. and his 26-year-old wife, Kimberly Malnery, on a fishing trip. The couple brought along their 22-month-old daughter, Miranda. At the location, Ford attacked the couple with a rifle. He first shot Greg in the head, then struck him repeatedly with a blunt weapon before cutting his throat. Kimberly, though injured at the time, managed to escape and save her daughter by strapping her into the back seat of the truck. But Ford caught up with her, sexually assaulted her, and killed her with the rifle. The next day, a farm worker found the bodies. Miranda was found alive, but she was dehydrated and covered in insect bites after being trapped in the truck for more than 18 hours, with traces of her mother's blood on her. On February 13, 2025, James Dennis Ford was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison. For his last meal, he requested steak, macaroni and cheese, fried okra, sweet potato, pumpkin pie, and sweet tea. Ford chose not to make a final statement and was pronounced dead at 6:19 p.m. Richard Lee Tabler, Texas. Between November 26 and November 28, 2004, Richard Tabler killed 4 people in Killeen, Texas. Tabler and his helper Timothy Doan Payne planned to kill 28-year-old Mohammed Amin Rahmouni, a nightclub manager who had fired Tabler. So, on Thanksgiving Day, Tabler tricked Rahmouni with an offer to sell stereo equipment. When Rahmouni arrived with his friend the Haytham Zayed, Tabler shot both men while Payne recorded the killings. 2 days later, Tabler killed 16-year-old Amanda Banefield and 18-year-old Tiffany Lorraine Dotson, who both worked as strippers at Rahmouni's club. Tabler lured them with promises of drugs before shooting them multiple times. Tabler was arrested for theft charges the same day he killed the girls and admitted to the murders the next day. On February 13, 2025, Richard Lee Tabler was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit in Texas. In his final statement, Tabler showed remorse to his victims' families. "There is not a day that goes by that I don't regret my actions. I had no right to take your loved ones from you, and I ask and pray, hope and pray, that one day you find it in your hearts to forgive me for those actions." Like Stephen Nelson, Tabler received only the standard prison meal on the day of his execution. He was pronounced dead at 6:38 p.m. Brad Keith Sigmund, South Carolina. In 2001, 43-year-old Sigmund attacked his ex-girlfriend's parents with a baseball bat in their northwestern South Carolina home. After killing the couple, he forced his ex-girlfriend Rebecca into his car. She escaped by jumping out of the moving vehicle, though Sigmund shot her in the foot before his gun ran out of bullets. At his 2002 trial, he explained that when Rebecca fell out of love with him, it set him off. The day before his execution, Sigmund asked for fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes with gravy, biscuits, cheesecake, and sweet tea. But he also requested 3 buckets of original recipe Kentucky Fried Chicken so that he could feed the men locked up with him, but that request was denied. When asked for his last words, Sigmund listed 4 Bible quotes that he said showed that nowhere does God in the New Testament give man the authority to kill another man. He ended with, "I want my closing statement to be one of love and a calling to my fellow Christians to help us end the death penalty. We are now under God's grace and mercy." On March the 7th, 2025, Brad Keith Sigmund was executed by firing squad in South Carolina and was pronounced dead at 6:08 p.m. Jesse Hoffman, Louisiana. On November 27, 1996, 18-year-old Hoffman forced 28-year-old Molly Elliott into her car at gunpoint as she walked toward it. She was supposed to meet her husband for dinner. Hoffman made Elliott withdraw about $200 from an ATM, then ordered her to drive to a remote area of St. Tammany Parish while she begged him not to hurt her. When they got there, Hoffman sexually assaulted her. He then forced her to walk down a dirt path to a small dock, where he ordered her to kneel before ending her life with a gunshot. The next day, Thanksgiving morning, a duck hunter found her naked body lying on a cold dock. On March the 17th, 2025, Hoffman was executed by nitrogen gas, becoming the first inmate in Louisiana history to be killed this way. He declined to make a final statement and did not request a last meal. The gas flowed for about 19 minutes, and state officials said his heart stopped roughly 5 minutes after the flow began. Aaron Gunches, Arizona. On November 14, 2002, 30-year-old Gunches got involved in a problem with his girlfriend and her ex-husband, Ted Price. After having friends put Price in her car, Gunches and one roommate drove Price to an empty desert area outside of Mesa. There, Gunches shot Price 4 times. Price's body was found days later. On January 15, 2003, Gunches was arrested in La Paz County after shooting an Arizona Department of Public Safety officer during a traffic stop. The officer survived, but Gunches ran away, leading to a 15-hour search before he was caught. During his sentencing, Gunches told jurors, "Do what you're going to do." And in 2018, he began writing letters to the Attorney General asking to be executed. The day before his execution, Gunches asked for a bacon cheeseburger, gyro, onion rings, and baklava. On March 18, 2025, Aaron Gunches, 53, was executed by lethal injection at a state prison in Florence, Arizona. When asked if he had any last words, Gunches shook his head to say no. After the drugs began to flow, he breathed heavily several times before passing out. He was declared dead at 10:33 a.m. local time. Wendell Arden Grissom, Oklahoma. On November 3, 2005, 36-year-old Grissom, a former truck driver, and Jesse Johns, a homeless hitchhiker, drove into Blaine County, Oklahoma, looking for a house to rob. After drinking vodka, Grissom picked a house randomly. When Drew Kopp answered the door, Grissom first asked if her husband was home. He then shot his way through a sliding glass door into the house. Amber Dawn Matthews, only 23, grabbed Kopp's 5-week-old baby and ran into a bedroom where Kopp's 19-month-old daughter was sleeping. Grissom followed Amber into the room, where she begged, "Please don't shoot me," before he killed her as she held one of the children. Kopp managed to escape in Grissom's truck and flagged down another car for help. Grissom and Johns were caught that same day at a nearby cafe. The day before his execution, Grissom asked for a Canadian Bacon Supreme Pizza, a pint of vanilla ice cream, and a pint of Coca-Cola. On March 20, 2025, Wendell Arden Grissom, now 56, was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Prison. When asked for his last words, Grissom said, "I apologize to all of you that I've hurt. I regret so much that I've put that hatred in your heart for me." He was pronounced dead at 10:13 a.m. local time. Edward Thomas James, Florida. On September 20, 1993, 28-year-old Edward Thomas James came home drunk and high on crack. He had been renting a room in Betty Dick's house and that night he found her 4 grandchildren asleep in the living room. James grabbed 8-year-old Toni Marie Neuner by the neck and choked her until she passed out. Thinking she was already dead, he carried her to his bedroom, sexually assaulted her, and hid her body between the bed and the wall. Toni later died from the choking. After that, James went into Betty Dick's bedroom. He hit her over the head with a candlestick and stabbed her several times. Then he went to the kitchen, grabbed a bigger knife, came back, and stabbed Betty again, this time in the back. Afterward, James showered, stole some jewelry, and left in Betty's car, taking her purse with him. He fled the state, and a large manhunt followed. 17 days later, James was spotted on America's Most Wanted and arrested in California. In 2003, he told the court, "I don't want to die, but I do believe it's the right punishment for what I did. From now until the time they execute me, I'm just going to exist. Come as close to peace with what I did. I feel in my heart that I'm doing the right thing." On March 28, 2025, James was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison in Rayford. For his last meal, he had fried catfish, potato salad, hush puppies, cookies, soda, and coffee. He didn't say any last words. Michael Anthony Tanzy, Florida. On April 25, 2000, 23-year-old Michael Anthony Tanzy walked up to 49-year-old Janet Acosta while she was sitting in her van reading a book. He asked her for a cigarette, then attacked her, tied her up, and drove south toward the Keys. Along the way, he made her give him her bank password and took out money from several ATMs. Tanzy later sexually assaulted her, then choked her to death and left her body near a boat ramp in Cudjoe Key. When Acosta didn't come back from her break, her co-workers called the police. Officers tracked her bank activity, and that led them to Tanzy. He was arrested 2 days later in Key West. After his arrest, Tanzy also admitted to killing 37-year-old Caroline Holder in Massachusetts the year before, though he was never charged for it. On April 8, 2025, Tanzy was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison. For his last meal, he asked for a fried pork chop, bacon, a baked potato, corn, ice cream, a candy bar, and soda. In his final statement, Tanzy apologized to both families, saying, "I want to apologize to the family of Janet Acosta and Caroline Holder for taking their lives." Then he added, "Heavenly Father, please do not blame those who do not know what they're doing." He was pronounced dead at 6:12 p.m. Mikal Dean Mahdi, South Carolina. From July 14th to 17th, 2004, Mahdi committed crimes across multiple states, including 2 confirmed murders. After killing a man in Virginia during a drug deal gone bad, Mahdi stole a gun, car, and license plates and ran to North Carolina. There, on July 15th, he shot and killed 29-year-old store clerk Christopher Jason Boggs during a robbery. And on July 17th, in South Carolina, Mahdi killed 56-year-old off-duty police officer James Edward Myers at Myers Farm. Mahdi shot Myers 9 times, then poured diesel fuel on his body and set it on fire. He stole Myers' police truck and weapons before running away. Mahdi was later arrested and sentenced to death for the officer's murder and life in prison for the clerk's murder. Given the choice between lethal injection, the electric chair, or firing squad, Mahdi chose the firing squad. His last meal was ribeye steak, cooked medium, mushroom risotto, broccoli, collard greens, cheesecake, and sweet tea. On April 11, 2025, Michael Dean Mahdi was executed by firing squad at the Broad River Correctional Institution. He didn't make a final statement. The firing squad fired at 6:01 p.m., and he was pronounced dead at 6:05 p.m. Witnesses said that Mahdi seemed in pain for about 80 seconds before going still. Moises Sandoval Mendoza, Texas. On March 18, 2004, Rochelle Tolleson was reported missing after her 5-month-old daughter was found alone at home. Inside the house, the bedroom showed signs of a struggle. But 5 days later, on March 23rd, Rochelle's burned body was found in a creek bed. She had to be identified through dental records. Police questioned 20-year-old Michael Anthony Mendoza after people said they had seen him talking to Rochelle at a party a few days earlier. Mendoza confessed. He told officers he had choked Rochelle for no reason while they sat in his truck, then sexually assaulted her. After that, he choked her again and cut her throat to make sure she was dead. At first, he left her body in a field, but later moved it to the creek bed and set it on fire. On April 23, 2025, Mendoza, now 41, was executed by lethal injection. It was Texas's third execution this year. In his final statement, spoken in both English and Spanish, Mendoza apologized to Rochelle's family, saying, "I am sorry for having robbed you of Rochelle's life. I know nothing that I could ever say or do would ever make up for that." He was pronounced dead at 6:40 p.m. James Osgood, Alabama. On October 13, 2010, James Osgood and his girlfriend, Tanya Van Dyke, attacked Tracy Lynn Wileman in her bedroom. Both Osgood and Van Dyke sexually assaulted Wileman and forced her to perform sex acts on them, according to what Osgood told police. Osgood then cut Wilmon's throat several times before stabbing her in the back. During his confession, he also said, "I remember seeing the fear in her eyes and seeing her shaking. I know there was a lot of cutting involved, but it wasn't a crime of violence. There was no anger involved. I was scared. She wasn't dying, so I kept cutting her throat and neck." Osgood was sentenced to death while Van Dyke got life in federal prison. On April 24, 2025, James Osgood was executed by lethal injection at the William C. Holman Correctional Facility in Alabama. His last meal was pizza, and in his final statement, Osgood said, "I haven't said her name since that day. Today will be the first time I said it. Tracy, I apologize." Osgood was pronounced dead at 6:35 p.m.